Welcome to the very first podcast episode of Estheticians in Business, the podcast. And I am so excited. I am your host, Allison Steinberg. And I honestly just can't believe this is happening. This is kind of a big deal for me. I have always wanted a podcast, but I literally never knew what it was going to be about. And then when I became an esthetician, I was like, oh, I'll do a podcast about skin, right? And then I never did. And then when I began creating courses and coaching and teaching other estheticians to hit six figures and doing all those things, I was like, I can do a podcast about that. So this podcast is Estheticians in Business. So it's going to be the business side of things, but it's also going to be about inside the treatment room, what goes on, and just the questions that you probably have about being an esthetician in business. I mean, I feel like being a solo esthetician just in general is really really and I've just seen so many people decide to get out and actually do it. And I think that's the most empowering and beautiful thing, that it's so many people tell estheticians not to do it. And I don't believe in that whatsoever. I totally believe in the idea that if you have a put on your heart to go in and become a solo esthetician, do it with all of your heart, because you have the capability. You just have to do it. You got to do the work. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you do the correct work. I'm here to help you, give you ideas and to teach you and to educate you and to eventually get people on here with me to continue to help and teach you, do all those things. So let's get into it with, I feel like the first thing, the first banger, the first question that I always get asked is, how do I get clients? Right? I mean, raise your hand. Obviously I can't see you, but raise your hand if you have asked that question out there to a coach, to another esthetician, to a Facebook page. You're like, what do I do? How do I get clients? I'm frustrating. I'm struggling. I can't even pay my rent. I don't know what to do. Okay, so there's a few different ways to get clients, and I could always lay out every single way for you to get a client. I mean, I really could. We could be here for hours of different ways that you could potentially get clients. But I think what we really have to decide and we really have to dive into is, first off, who is your client? And I get it. People are like, niche down, figure out who your avatar is, blah, 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 blah. While they're not wrong, you still need to know who your client is. It's annoying, right? But you need to know who your client is purely because you need to know where the heck they hang out. Legitimately, by knowing their ages, knowing their habits, knowing their values, knowing how they grew up, knowing their environment kind of situations, you're gonna learn, do they like to go into a store to shop, or are they just online people? Do they go out into the community, or do they find everywhere and everybody that they purchase from on Facebook, on Google reviews? Where are they doing that? And I could get into every generation, but I really think that you have to define where people or who your client is so that you can define where those people hang out. Okay. And that's really going to help you. And so obviously when you are choosing to market somewhere and advertise somewhere and you're doing client acquisition, naturally want to do what's most comfortable, what makes you the happiest, right? And yes, I absolutely 100% agree that this business is something that should bring you joy, that should bring you happiness. But is that a caveat to that? But if you are unwilling to get out of your comfort zone and you are just willing to just stay in whatever comfort zone you got going on, you're probably going to chill in that comfort zone. And you know what's not in that comfort zone? Six figures. You know what's not in that comfort zone? $10,000 months, a fully booked month, time freedom, financial freedom. That's not in that comfort zone. You know how you make an uncomfortable zone a comfort zone? By jumping into it and making it comfortable. So, and hopefully you didn't just run away and hop off this because I just said that it's my first podcast and I'm just out here just destroying. So what I'm saying is that you have to get uncomfortable. So I'm going to give you an example. All right. So majority of my clients when I was in the treatment room were millennials, and usually a little bit older millennials and Generation X. I truly focused on, at first I did hyperpigmentation, and I really focused on higher Fitzpatrick's, but then I really transitioned to relaxation and anti-aging. I genuinely enjoyed watching women just watch their skin tighten and watch their skin glow and watching just relax every single month. I love that. I loved creating an experience that was around relaxation. I love the idea that you could have correction and relaxation. It was like my tagline, no joke. So I made a whole thing around that. And they're millennial and Gen X. So I learned that where they hung out. Okay. So millennials, that I feel like is probably the easiest person to like advertise to, because they are the people that have been on like the internet their whole life, or majority of our lives. I'm a millennial. Hello. They have been on the internet majority of their lives. They've also been in person in community and networking events and doing all these things the other parts of their lives. While Gen Z has really had the internet the entire time they've existed. And Gen X didn't have the internet the entire time they've existed. So you have millennials that are like right in that fun place where you can really advertise them a lot. And also they're at the purchasing age, right? So you'll see, like, I'm one of the younger, I am like the youngest year of millennials, and the people higher, like older than me, are the people that are purchasing a lot more. They're doing more. They're starting to see the changes in their skin, and they are just, ready to get it fixed, right? So when you're looking at millennials, to get to the point here, when you're thinking about millennials, think about them as where they're hanging out the most. They're hanging out the most. Per research, still statistics, majority of people still are on Facebook. I know that might sound crazy, but Facebook has been around for like ever. And Facebook is something that majority of people are still hanging out. Millennials are on Facebook. Gen X is on Facebook. Okay. Yes. Are they also on Instagram? Absolutely. They're still on Instagram. I mean, I purchased tons of stuff and booked tons of appointments on Instagram. I now look for estheticians that I want to see personally in my area on Instagram. But those groups on Facebook is where they're at. The community people are looking for. When I think about a community, I think about Facebook. I think about making a Facebook group and being in a Facebook group, one that I can really be part of. And then I also have to think about, like, what do? I'm a millennial. I enjoy going to community events. I love going to networking things because there's other millennials there. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that you have to figure out where these people are. Because if you're just like going around passing out business cards with no attachment, people are going to be like, okay, cool, here's the trash, right? So the goal is, when you're marketing, and I could go around in circles with this forever. The goals in your marketing is to figure out where your people are and then go there. And then once you're there, figure out how to get them to communicate with you, their Instagram, to get their Facebook, their phone number, their email, something to capture, right? It's almost like you go on a landing page on like somebody's blog. They are immediately going to ask you, hey, do you want to continue to see this blog? Here is a place you can put your email. Or you go to a webinar and people are automatically asked for your email, or you get a freebie, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, how are you going to get people's information? Like, how are you going to capture them so they're not just somebody you talk to and then they run away? I think that's the thing you guys have to remember, is when you are in front of somebody, you have to figure out how you're like them. You want to date them. You want to talk to them again, right? You don't want to date them, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, you want to talk to them again. So you need to be able to come up with a way to communicate with them later on in life. So it's almost like you go up to somebody you really connect with. Let's say it's a guy or a girl, whatever. Say you go up to them and you really, really like them and you like want to see them again. What are you going to do? You're not going to be like, okay, bye. Here's bye, right? No, you're not. You're not going to just run up to somebody cute and be like, here's my business card, and expect them to have any attachment to you. Guys, what's crazy is there is, like, statistically, they've shown that people have to see you and understand who you are and be like 8 times before they choose to purchase. And I have to remember that all the time when I'm like helping somebody or something like that. And I'm like, well, why haven't you gotten this yet? And they're like, they just weren't ready. And so that's where you have to realize that sometimes you have to get somebody on Instagram or on Facebook or build a connection with them in another way before they decide to be your client. So it's a long game. All the way across the board, it's a long game. Now, there are quick ways that you can get people in too. So say your client is still millennial and you go to a networking event, okay? Or you go to a community event. So say you are a vendor somewhere, 10 out of 10 recommend those. You could literally set up a way to be like a giveaway, right? So many people go into vendor events and are like, buy my stuff, buy my things, give me, sign up for appointments, get all this stuff. No. You want people to see you, right? Like, if a spa came up to me, as an esthetician, spa came up to me and was like, yeah, if you spend $300 on this package, you'll get a free one for free. I'd be like, I don't know who the heck you are. I'm not spending $300 on nothing. So that's where you have to realize you have to get them, you have to capture them, and you have to get them to reach out to them again. Okay. And so what I always recommend, especially at like vendor events, is get like a spin wheel and then you basically do a giveaway of some sort. So I used to do a giveaway of a 60-minute facial, and you get to enter to win the 60-minute facial. And before you freak out and you're like, awesome, 60-minute facial. Like, I get it. It sounds like a lot. It's like $100-something plus service, right? But the idea is to capture them. So they're entering for a 60-minute facial, but they get to spin the wheel, and the wheel has things on it that they will 100% receive if they come in for the appointment. So for instance, you basically have them spin the wheel, and it can have like dermaplane on it, or maybe it has like LED, a gua sha, maybe it has a free underarm wax, something that's a very low cost to you, but very high perceived value to them. And then whatever they spin on that wheel, they get. And they get to put it on like an entry slip, or maybe you have a form like on an iPad, but they get to enter. And it's super fun because then you get to follow up with them. You text them 2 or 3 days later, probably like 2 days, 24 hours if you can. And like, hey, oh my gosh, so I haven't done a drawing for the 60-minute facial yet, but you won the dermaplaning. I'm so excited. Can I give you a call to set up the appointment? They are going to be purchasing a facial with you to get the dermaplaning. So I hope that makes sense. The idea is to capture them. So you receive their emails, their cell phone number, whatever, and then they're going to have them come in as a client. Now, of course, there's percentages, not 100% of people are going to do it. But I can tell you right now, guys, I can think of so many clients that I met through vendor events. Okay. And the same question could be coming up to your brain, like, how do I get clients, right? Like I said before, it's show up where they are. If you realize that your ideal client is hanging out on Facebook, well, you know what you need to be? You need to be on Facebook. Okay, on Facebook. So like, shameless plug here, but if you're not in the Estheticians in Business, the Facebook group, I know you guys probably love my names. It's like the Instagram page, the marketing course. But if you haven't been on the Esthetician in Business Facebook group, you should jump on it, because that is where I'm going to be sharing a lot more of this kind of information in it. But I went on Facebook because I knew my clients were there. My estheticians, my girls I wanted to help, my loves were on Facebook. So I created a Facebook group. Now, I'm not telling you to go create a Facebook group. What I am saying is, if you go on Facebook and you type in go into your local area, like you go on the Facebook groups and you type in, say like mom groups near me, assuming you're a mom, right? Or like women's group near me, assuming you're a woman, or whatever it is, right? Non-toxic mamas near me, right? Those are some of the groups I'm in. Democrats near me, whatever it is, okay? Republicans near me. You put the Facebook group and you type that in, and it's going to give you a list of things. You want to go through and you want to be added to those groups, to the ones that are active by a lot of people. So you don't want to be in a group that's just like one person posts things every single day and no one interacts. You want to make sure you're in a group where people are actually engaged, where people are actually like showing up on a regular basis. That's where you want to add. And you get in there and you become the esthetician. And I say this like, you go in there and you comment, you chitty chat with people, you can become friends with people in there, which should be intentional. Like, friends are cool, but you also use like the days that they will post about businesses to ask for models. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but asking for models. And the thing is, for asking for models is, a lot of people will go in those groups or really anywhere and ask for models and expect your model to pay full price. No, your model is coming in to be a model. So they're doing a job and you're doing a job. It's still a transaction, to the point where they still have to pay for the service, but at a very discounted rate, because you're going to ask them for pictures, you're going to ask them to leave you a testimony, you're going to ask them to give you feedback, you're going to ask them if they can get videos. They're not going to receive this beautiful, glorious, I mean, they still can, absolutely, like service that they would if they were a regular client. Like, you're going to have times where you have to stop to take a photo. You're going to have times where you have to stop to like readjust a camera. And maybe you have to go a little slower with something, or zoom in, so they understand that you are still going to give them a service, but they're not going to get that full service. I always, whenever I do it, and I can always do this in a separate podcast, but whenever I'm creating like a Facebook model, I always did a super high discount, because I wanted to attract a lot of people, because you still have to remember that there is a cancellation rate when you do stuff like that. But if you're in a large group, you should get hundreds of people. And so it got to the point where I had to stop doing it, because I did it like probably every 2 months for about 3 times. So it was total about 6 months. And I was full. I went from literally very little clients to like 150 clients in 3 months. It was insane. Now, my retention was top notch. My retention at that time was a little over 80%. And it was incredible. Over the course of those like 3 to 6 months in that time frame, I had insane retention. And it was this like, it was just absolutely incredible. And that was how I realized that like that's where a lot of millennials hang out. That's actually how I found out, right? And I have the degrees and all the things, but it doesn't really, I feel like no degrees actually go into like in depth like this, but it's really good to understand where your clients hang out. So if you clients are mainly Gen Z, girl, you better be on TikTok. You better be on Instagram. You better be showing up to those things. If your main client is Gen Z, and you understand that that's like college age, oh my gosh, get into a college sorority, connect with the college events near you, and try to become one of those vendors that show up every quarter or whatever, whenever they do events. Like, figure out who that person is and show up all the time in front of them. And I think that's the thing we forget, is that you need to show up in front of them in a bunch of different ways. I mean, show up in front of them like in a million different places. So if you have a Facebook and Instagram, you have a TikTok, you have a YouTube, you have all those things, like you have to show up all the time. And so when someone asks me how to get clients, I'm just like, that's such a loaded question, because I don't know who your clientele is. I really don't. And that's the hard part about it. Now, absolutely, you can do business cards. Heck yeah. Give out the business card, sister. But give out a business card with one, either an incentive that has a deadline, or two, one that has like a rip off so that you can get their information. Like where it's like two-sided business card and like one side says like your information, then the other side tears off and you get their information, or you get them to enter in a giveaway. I think that's always a fun thing to do. Like say you're in Starbucks and you're chilling and you see somebody and you're just connecting with this girl in line and she's super cool, and you love her and you're like, oh my gosh, this would be a great client. She's literally in my age. You see she has melasma and you're just like, I could treat that. Obviously, you're not going to tell her that she has melasma. You don't want to be like, yo, girl, your mustache is popping out. Let me help you. But you probably could say something like, hey, I'm actually, it's going to sound weird. I am a spa owner and my business is actually doing a giveaway right now for a free X, Y, and Z. And I'm just letting people enter if they want. I mean, regardless if you win or not, you do get this free X, Y, and Z. Do you want to enter? And then she's going to say yes or no. If she says no, be like, okay, cool, whatever. This way you probably could give her your business card and be like, well, here's my business card. If you ever like need a facial or a wax or your melasma fix, don't say that probably. But whatever it is, you probably, you could do that. And then be the end of it and be like, okay, cool, have your Instagram linked on there so she can follow you. But also what you could do is if she says yes, it'd be like, oh my gosh, awesome. Here is an entry slip. You literally could pull an entry slip out of your bag, your wallet. You could have a clipboard. I mean, whatever. Or you could be like, are you on Instagram or are you on Facebook? You can message me and I will manually enter you. So you become her friend on Facebook or you follow her on Instagram. So you would have them follow you first and then you go and follow her. So that's the intention. You want to make sure she follows you first. You always want to think about having the ball in your court, right? Because when you give the ball to somebody else, you take away your power. And when I say that, I don't mean that in like being a bad thing, but I say that in the idea that you don't want to give away an opportunity. It's almost like waiting till after somebody leaves to pre-book. The likelihood that someone's actually going to pre-book after they leave is like null. It's just not going to happen. So you want to make sure that you are taking the time to like get them to remain in your space for as long as possible. Because the thing is, you want people to see you over and over and over again. Like I said, so like loaded question, how do I get clients? There's a lot of ways to get clients. There's like a lot of ways to get clients. My gosh. And so I think that's where we have to really realize like who our client is, where they're hanging out. Do I want to go where they are? If not, you probably should find a new client. And how consistent do I want to be? Because the more you show up, the more you grow. And that means the same in TikTok, on Instagram. That means the same in your business. The more you show up for your business, the more you're going to grow. That's it. So you just have to remember that. Okay. So the more you show up, the more you grow. Okay. So how do you get clients? Girl, you got it. It's a loaded question. If you have more questions about this, you guys, you can always message me on Instagram, which I'm always down for. You can actually message me the word help and I will send you a whole thing about this. But I also have a masterclass that is pretty awesome. And it literally is like 3 steps to being fully booked. I will link it in the show notes so you can see it. It's totally a free masterclass. You get to like meet who I am a little bit more. But it also goes over how to get clients. So, which is pretty cool. And then I talk to you about my marketing course that I have at the very end of it that goes over all the ways that you can literally make money getting clients and being fully booked, and exactly how I did it, but also the business aspect of things as well. You're not going to just be hit with the, like do this, and this. You will actually understand the really foundational things that go along with it. So you can always do that. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give me a 5-star comment or whatever happens in a podcast. But I am so excited to be here. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time.